Yes, hello and welcome to another 2 Network match report with me, Adam. It's finished to the Vitality. Wow, what a finish to that game. It's finished Bournemouth 2, Newcastle United 2 in the dying seconds of that game. Ex-Bournemouth player, this is the headline, ex-Cherry, Matt Ritchie, half volleys, an absolutely spectacular slice shot into the top corner past Artur Boruc, and quite frankly, justice is done there. I think the draw was the fairest result. It was a very, very even contest. It was a great game, actually. It was end to end. I think both teams, it was basically just very, very interesting to see how both teams dealt with the blustery conditions. It would seem to be a running theme of the entire match. But yeah, let's start from the start. Honestly, that was absolutely sensational. Then the Newcastle fans going into absolute raptures. It was brilliant, absolute limbs. I'm sure I saw one guy sort of on just getting pinned down on the touchline because he tried to run onto the pitch. Hence his excitement. We don't condone that, but bloody hell, it really shows the emotion, doesn't it? Christ, just get me breath there. Changes to the side. Diarmi came in alongside Hayden, and obviously the enforced changes at the back with Cher's suspension, Lascelles' injury. We had Dummett came in, who had a very, very solid. I thought Dummett was really, really solid for most of the second half in the previous game against Everton, and Federico Fernandez came in the Lascelles role, the no nonsense organising role, and yeah, we had the likes of sort of Kennedy, Muto, Shelvey on the bench, Manquillo, Clark sort of being recalled as well, and really we had a really, really strong start to the game. We looked sort of quite proactive. That we looked like we were going to try and take the game and maybe trying to steal a bit more possession than we're used to on the road. And you know, possession's not really something that, well, it's not something that really troubles Rafa Benitez, but you know, it can always be an indicator of kind of the dominance of a team in a game. However, a lot of Rafa Benitez's sides, and certainly like with Newcastle, it's kind of, his game's more been about not necessarily the possession, how long you have the ball for. It's what you do with the ball when you do have it, and being efficient with that. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of this side that Rafa Benitez has compiled and built. So we seem to be, you know, the front three were sort of like linking up well. Hayden, I noticed, got a couple of really sort of early challenges in on a couple of their players, and Brooks in particular, just sort of letting him know he's there. The old cliche, just give him one. And it wasn't, but in fairness to Hayden, his challenging was like really clean today. Ryan Fraser, one of their big danger men, he had been nursing an injury from the last game. So this week it was kind of a bit. So I don't think he went at that game. I don't think he was massively 100%. And you know, managing to sort of stifle. They were going to be the danger men, the likes of Brooks, the likes of Ryan Fraser, and obviously you've got Callum Wilson back. Josh King is always a threat as well. But it was Newcastle that took the game to them, and Hayden got a shot away early doors from wide. Almiron seemed to be sort of a lot more involved in this game today than he sort of might have been in the last couple of games. And yeah, it was just the first half, like I say, was the whole half, but not a lot happened in the first half. Bournemouth didn't manage any shots on target. Newcastle did, and quite brilliantly opened the scoring as well. But it was from a Bournemouth attack, lots of corners. It was about 6 apiece, so fairly evenly matched again on the corner front. But it was a counter attack that Almiron broke free centrally, and basically sort of found himself like kind of one-on-one, but he was sort of pushed wide. But it was Jordan Ibe who had chased him back, and it was kind of persistent. He was having a couple of nibbles, and then eventually Almiron went down. He drew the foul well. In terms of like the final foul, there wasn't really much in it, but it was just one of those where you can see that yeah he's fouled him, he's brought him down. And you know, Rondon's had a couple of free kick efforts over the last couple of games. It's sort of been a relatively new thing, this, to have in terms of right footer, because obviously we've got Ritchie, got Almiron, Shelvey wasn't on the pitch, and you kind of think, well, who's going to be taking a free kick from the, from the left hand side? And Dwight Gale managed it in in the Championship season, for example, against Norwich. You remember that curling free kick, but since then, like, we don't really have any sort of set piece specialist. You imagine Cher might be able to sort of knock one in from long range, but it was Rondon. Rondon steps up, and whether it was a mixture of just kind of there's these treacherous, blustery conditions that really really gave the game character, I think, and gave this sort of like running narrative. Sort of like difficulty level hard with this swirling wind. It's just like hanging long balls up just suddenly meant, complete chaos for both defences, really. But Rondon stepped up to this right at the end of the first half, and he's just got it right. And in fairness, though, it's not quite in the corner. It is sort of slightly more central. And Boric does this thing, and I've watched it a few times, and I still don't understand it. And whether he was unsighted, and whether Rondon just did exactly what he needed to do to score. The trajectory of the ball perfect, but Rondon swung it over. He's got it up and over the wall perfectly, and it's heading in. And Boric has sort of gone for it, but I just feel he could have then extended his arm, Boric, but he sort of doesn't. He sort of retracts it. It's very strange. Take a look at it and comment below, see what you think. But I kind of think Boric really should have. Maybe Boric was never getting to it, and maybe that's why he's just kind of he's already just conceded it's past him. But it seems a bit defeatist, because I still maintain, even though he's kind of behind it and he's obviously Rondon's done him, I still think he probably could have made a better. He's not at full stretch, Boric, which is why I'm kind of drawing attention to this. So that was quite strange, but I'm not complaining. And Rondon just peels away. Federico Fernandez is like, yeah! And, all going over the corner. It's an absolutely beautiful strike. And Rondon, I mean, we have to sign him. We have to sign him permanently. I mean, I don't think there's been any doubt for the last 6 months now. But we can't afford to let this player go. He wants to come here. I think he's moved his family here anyway. He has to be the second sign of the season behind Rafa Benitez. He's absolutely genius, and he's so integral to how we are able to play the way we play. So I mean, what a perfect time to stop. The cliched perfect time to score just before half time. Suddenly Eddie Howe's got to kind of rally his troops, and by the end of the half he's got Ryan Fraser, who sort of twisted his ankle. It was a clean challenge from Isaac Hayden. It was just he kind of slipped a bit and his ankle jarred. You got Brooks sort of in a crumpled heap on the floor. And I don't think that's kind of. I don't think it was kind of intentionally, going hard on their, quick young talents. But it was a physical game, and maybe it wasn't quite for, the likes of Fraser and Brooks. And there was, we saw little bursts from Fraser. He had this run that sort of went down the left hand side in the first half, but again, we didn't really see that creativity from Fraser or Brooks, in fact, that sort of has given Bournemouth so many goals. They've been really, really impressive players, and I think Brooks has been one of the stories of this season. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. But again, we kept him in check, and Hayden, so between them, Hayden and Diarmi formed this guard in front of the back three. A back three that not necessarily used to playing with each other. Lejeune playing on the right hand side rather than his more the more familiar left hand side that's been in recent weeks and months. So going into half time, 1-0 up, slight surprise, but it was it was fairly even. There wasn't much to sort of speak of in terms of the first half, but brilliant to go ahead. But then going back into the second half, immediately conceding a penalty, and it was Federico Fernandez who made an unnecessary challenge, I feel, on Nathan Ake. Ball came in, Fernandez has sort of lost his man. He then gets his man again, and he's doing this, and he's sort of in isolation. Yeah, it's a foul, therefore it must be a penalty. But it's the kind of challenge, and again, it sounds cliche, it's the kind of challenge you'll see 20 times a game go unpunished in the box. Happens all the time, this kind of coming together, and it wasn't massively obvious. It was... No, that's slightly unfair. It was obvious, but I felt it was very, very soft. It was a very, very weak decision. Had the referee just kind of gone, nah, not enough in it for me, I don't think there would have been that many complaints. And having in mind that in the second half, later on in the second half, I think it was either King or Jordan Ibe, pulled on Rondon's arm. He goes down, and it's like, well, the first one was, you know, probably was a foul, but it was very soft. But then that wasn't given. So where are the thresholds? Where are these decisions being made on? What's the context that Mike Dean's sort of created here? I'm not sure. And there was another decision towards the end of the game, which I'll get into in a bit. But again, just very strange. I mean, Mike Dean on the whole, not much controversy at all. But obviously, so penalty was given. Josh King stepped up, and you know, again, wasn't a particularly brilliant penalty. He just, Dubravka went the wrong way. Had Dubravka gone the right way, you would say how poor a penalty it was from Josh King. It wasn't in the corner. Wasn't particularly powerful. He just passed it in. It was just one of those that he just maybe give Dubravka the eyes, and that's where the skill and craft is. Fair play. 1-1. And you just think that's a kick in the teeth. You know, we haven't really been ahead in terms of real game time for longer than a couple of minutes, really. So you know, that was a massive blow. no wind, pun intended. But you know, and then Bournemouth got a second wind in their sails. I honestly, I will definitely try to stop this. The second half definitely wasn't a breeze for Newcastle's defence. No Dwight Gale in this game, of course. I'm done with the wind puns. I promise you. So there was, again, corners coming in. You know, it was ball came out to the edge of the box, got knocked in, and suddenly, like, you know, the keeper came, and you know, the ball's up there to be won on the sort of in the edge of the 6-yard box. Callum Wilson with a really powerful header just loops it over Dubravka, and Paul Dummett, you have to see this, basically an overhead kick clearance off the line, and it's, I mean, the ball's over the line, it doesn't go in, and suddenly and then after that, as a sort of like quite a forceful challenge on a header, and the referee blows his whistle, and the whole stadium thinks he's given it's a goal decision system, that it's crossed the line. So Bournemouth fans start kind of celebrating, and nobody really knows what's going on. But then a couple of seconds later, it's very evident that it's been given as a free kick to Newcastle. But you know, this was after the clearance from Dummett, so the clearance from Dummett absolutely integral, so crucial, and he's cleared it off the line and saved his team. It was absolutely brilliant from Paul Dummett, and he was the captain today, and I thought he had an absolutely excellent game. Unfortunately, his defensive partner, or one of the three partners, was Federico Fernandez, who, unfortunately, having given away the penalty for the first goal, was, you know, basically give away the ball for the second goal as well. So he sort of made a challenge. He sort of had the ball in possession, but made a very, very weak attempt to sort of, should have just cleared it, just absolutely smashed it away. But he tried to kind of take the ball into control. Solanke, who had been a second half substitution, came on, and you know, this turned into then schoolboy kind of defender. There was 4 of them, ball watching, all sort of like trying to block Solanke's route to goal. All the while, you had a couple of Bournemouth players on the edge of the box just waiting, just completely unmarked. One of them was Josh King, who had already scored, and he was able to have the ball laid off to him, no problem. Nobody's anywhere near him, and just sort of curls the ball past Dubravka. This is like kind of with about 10 minutes to go, or 15 minutes to go if you include stoppage time. And you just think, bloody hell, man, that honestly really poor. Given that going into this game this weekend, we had the 6th best defence in the Premier League. It's been 2 errors from a player, Federico Fernandez, who, you know, I was really excited to see back in the side because he'd been good, and maybe it's just rustiness because he hasn't even come on as a sub for a very, very long time. So you have to put it down to a lack of game time, because he's usually a lot more dependable and reliable than this. or maybe it was the conditions, or whatever it was, and that's sort of something else to think about. But just think two errors from Fernandez has kind of cost us 2 goals here, and I don't want to lambast him too much, but he was at the heart of those, and hopefully, if Lascelles is going to continue to be out, and Rafa will have to work with Fernandez and just get him, you know. But he'll be a lot less rusty having come through 90 minutes, and you know, we have to. It's one of the best defenders we have, so you know, I've got no doubt that he'll improve and Rafa will iron out those tweaks, absolutely. But you just kind of think that, you know, Josh King's swept it into the corner, basically the same corner that he scored the penalty into. Dubravka got no chance really, and there was just Bournemouth kept knocking on the door, but again they just weren't getting enough shots on target. Neither were Newcastle, in fairness, and you know, there was a ball played through. Dummett tried to. I mean, Dummett made a couple of really good sliding challenges just to sort of, you know, as almost as last man. But there's one that got past him, and sort of Dubravka shouted for it, cleared the ball on the edge of the box, and he just got a bit of a knock on his ankle, Dubravka, and you wondered for a split second whether he was going to have to come off. Thankfully, he stayed on, but you just worry, just again, how important players like Rondon or Dubravka are to this side, and the you know, the very delicate balance that we have in terms of quality. Because, you know, if Dubravka, you know, goes off injured, we've got to call Darlow, and I certainly wouldn't have fancied him in these conditions, commanding a box, which he's not very, I don't think is his strength at the best of times. But, you know, Shelvey came on after the goal for Diarmi, Muto came on for Almiron. Atsu had come on for Perez a little bit earlier, but, you know, hadn't really he was kind of on the right hand side, and you just think in conditions like this, get a cross in, just make the defenders, like, get it in the air, let the wind sort of do its work, let it swirl around. But he kept just trying to get it back on his left foot, and he was frustratingly slow and hesitant in getting those crosses in, and it really annoyed me, because we had opportunities with Rondon, a great header of the ball, not getting any of that service. You know, Ritchie worked really hard today, obviously against his old club. Battled really hard, was tenacious, trying to get a few early whipped crosses in. Again, like, you know, remembering the brilliant headed goal that, you know, Rondon scored in the reverse fixture back in St James's Park. You know, Ritchie trying to look for that early ball to catch the, you know, their defence unawares, and they were without the likes of Adam Smith and Steve Cook. And they had a bit of a rookie in the centre of defence, so it was just trying to get trying to exploit that as best as they can. Because, you know, Nathan Aké's, you know, he's had a couple of seasons in the Premier League, but he's still relatively, you know, still learning his trade. He's still relatively wet around the ears. And you know, Shelvey came on, but after Shelvey came on, we had an opportunity. Atsu did well, in fairness, to win a free kick just to the side of the box on the touchline, like on the byline, and. Ritchie, I don't know what he was attempting, but he missed everybody. He almost like he was trying to have a shot, but he just whipped it, and it was such a waste. And the difference in quality last weekend against Everton, from the corners, for example, where Shelvey took them instead of Ritchie, and the delivery was so much better. And you just wonder, like, why he wasn't doing that? Why Shelvey didn't sort of just come in and take that on? It was a very frustrating. I was dead annoyed with Ritchie, but obviously Matt Ritchie loves to prove me wrong, time and time again, and guess what? He did it again with pretty much the last kick of the game, as I said at the top of the programme. Ball comes out to Yedlin on the right hand side. I mean, we're just basically throwing the kitchen sink here. I mean, we're just throwing everything at it. We're deep into stoppage time. We're like 4 minutes into stoppage time. It's last throw of the dice. Ball gets swirled in, misses everyone's head. It comes down to Ritchie gets ahead of his man, crucially, and the ball just straight from the head and over the top and just lands, and Ritchie catches this half volley with the outside of his left foot, and it just spins right into the top corner past Borich, and it is an absolutely incredible moment, and honestly no less than we deserved in terms of a draw. If you look at the stats, if you look at from watching the game, I don't think either side deserved to lose that in a way. I think had any side won that, it would have been a bit fortuitous. So I think, you know, I mean, Eddie Howe he's absolutely devastated at the end. He really is devastated. But again, I don't think you can begrudge that, because another big decision that I wanted to mention, as I mentioned before, was, you know, a couple of minutes before Ritchie's incredible strike in the top corner. Like, absolutely, I'm so delighted for him, especially against his old club, and going back there. And he did get a good reception there, in fairness to the Bournemouth fans. But what a way to sort of get the equaliser. It was emphatic, and I think that's the best way to describe it. It was just an emphatic half volley, and absolutely sort of sensational. It was just brilliant end to the game, and just brilliant for entertainment, brilliant for the neutral, I imagine, just in terms of the way that finished. But there was a moment where the ball came across the 6-yard box, and it was the young rookie who I will remember his name in a second. Don't worry, I'll go and find out. And he basically the ball comes across and he's facing goal, and he basically side foots it towards goal. He's basically on the 6-yard box. He side foots it towards goal. He sort of like cushions it, and it's a pass. It didn't come off the wrong part of his foot that he intended. It absolutely came off the part of his foot that he intended. It came off his instep. So that's what he meant to do. And the ball was going towards goal. It was on target, and Boruc saves it with his hands. Which, if that's a back pass, that's, you know, that you can't do that. And I don't know what the rule's supposed to be. I know it's a law that is very, very seldom enforced in the Premier League. It's almost never given, like back passes. When was the last back pass you remember being given? Like, you can't. And it's almost just like referees have kind of forgotten, you know, what the precedent is, because he like I say, he cushions it with his instep, so he does exactly what he means to do. It's not like it comes off his toe or the outside of his boot, or he skews it or spins out of. It's absolutely what was intended to do. He probably didn't mean to do it as hard, but then that's nobody's fault. That's not Newcastle players' fault. That's him not being able to be talented enough to cushion it. So it sort of became a pass heading into goal, and referee doesn't give anything. I would love to see if anyone else picks this up, because for me, if the law for back pass is an intentional pass backwards towards the goalkeeper, he's not allowed to use his hands, let alone pick it up. He's not allowed to use his hands, which he does in this case, Artur Boruc. And then that was just allowed, and play continued. So is there something I'm missing with this law? If anyone, again, comment below. Is there anything missing with this law that I've just completely missed? Because if that wasn't a back pass, surely there's no such thing as a back pass. It was an intentional movement with the instep, and he guided the ball backwards to the keeper, and the keeper saves it with his hands, and you can't do that. You can't do that. And we had players there ready to get, you know, if Boruc was to save it with his head or his chest or whatever, because he can't use his hands in that situation, by the letter of the law, check it. We had players there that could have tapped it in, but we didn't get the opportunity to. Obviously, that doesn't matter now, because we equalised a couple of minutes later, and had the back pass been given, Ritchie wouldn't have scored because of, you know, linear time and stuff. But it's something to be aware of, and something that we've possibly Bournemouth got away with. So I honestly think that the game was a really entertaining one. The wind made it just a bit raj, really. Great support from the away fans, especially at the end. The celebrations, the limbs were really impressive. It was incredible. I'd have loved to have been there. Knew a few people there from True Faith, so I'll be getting first-hand reports from them of how many phones and wallets that they've lost in that sort of final celebration. Totally worth it, though, I'm sure. But yeah, that was it was a pretty sweet way to end that game. It's another point, which means we're up into 35 points, which I think, yeah, we're sailing now, aren't we? We can start planning for next season. We really can. It's a phenomenal run that we're on at the minute, and it continues. Fair result, fair draw, great entertainment. Rondon, Matt Ritchie, 2-2. I've been Adam of the 2 Network. You've been watching. Please subscribe. Please share with your friends if you like what you see. If you listen to this on audio, please give us 5-star reviews and subscribe wherever you're listening to, on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever it might be. I've been Adam of the 2 Network, and I'm bloody delighted with that. Catch you later. Bye. Easy bye.